What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Busters. Today is Tuesday, December 20th, and we're going to be covering our Week 15 news and injuries. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Eric. How you doing today, brother?
I'm feeling fantastic. Glad to be here for another week. Luckily, the list of injuries isn't quite as long as we've had in the past few weeks. So that's good to see, especially in the playoffs. But we do have some big names on here to talk about.
Hell yeah. And if you got a playoff matchup, anything like that you want to ask us about, go ahead and drop that down in the comments below. Ask us any questions you want, and don't forget to like and follow. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into these news and injuries, and we're going to start off with probably the biggest one of the week. We got Mr. Jalen Hurts has sprained his throwing shoulder in the game versus the Bears, and it's not really expected to be a long-term injury, but it definitely puts his Week 16 status in doubt. I believe as of right now, the team is preparing to move forward as if Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter this week.
Yeah, this one's a big blow. Jalen Hurts has probably been the I don't know, stabilizing factor, the reason a lot of teams have made it to the playoffs. I can say the same for myself. I have a lot of exposure to Jalen Hurts on my teams, and so this one definitely hurts. No pun intended. Didn't mean to do that, but
Sheesh.
it does. Um, and yeah, it looks like he's not going to play in Week 16. Honestly, considering this team has already clinched their real life NFL playoff spot,
Mm.
I wouldn't be entirely shocked if they just shut him down for the rest of the regular season. It doesn't sound like they're going to do that. Um, but it's definitely within the realm of possibility. So these teams that have him could be without him for the rest of fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, hoping that's not the case, but at the same time, it's like we always say, these guys are playing real football at the end of the day. They don't really care too much about fantasy. They want their guys to be healthy so they can win.
Yeah.
Sticking with the Eagles, Nick Sirianni said in regard to Dallas Goddard this past weekend, he's getting there, but we'll see. He wasn't quite ready yet, and when he's ready, he'll go. So this is just in reference to the past weekend. Dallas Goddard, people were kind of expecting him to get ramped up, activated off IR, weren't quite ready to get him out there on the field yet. This kind of hurt me in regards to fantasy, but also not at the same time. Probably hurt a couple people because it was, I don't know, it was announced ahead of time, but I don't know. I've probably fucked up on my part somewhere. Who knows? But Dallas Goddard seems as if they're ramping him back up. I'll be interested to see if he plays next week and how he and Gardner Minshew kind of, melt together a little bit, or who's going to be the guy in that offense with Gardner Minshew leading it.
Yeah. First off, I just want to say I think you got messed up by the ESPN app. I
Yeah.
think what he's referring to, he had Dallas Goddard in his starting lineup. We saw the news come out that he wasn't going to play. You switched him for Juwan Johnson, who had a great game, and then magically he was no longer in your lineup after lineups locked. So that sucks for you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you said at the same time it didn't really end up mattering. You had a bye, and we do have a matchup between the two teams on bye to decide who you play in the semis in our league, but you would have lost anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah.
As far as actual injury news for him, I do think that I expect him to play this week. But yeah, I'm not sure what the chemistry is going to be like between him and Gardner Minshew. I think we're probably downgrading everybody in this offense at least by a little bit with the quarterback change. And I don't know that I would have been super confident to start him the first week off of injury anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll probably ramp him up a little bit slowly. So I don't have my expectations high for him for sure.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. Yeah, fuck ESPN, man. ESPN
Yeah,
is
for real.
crazy.
We need to switch out of that. We need to get to sleeper or something.
Yeah, because ESPN's not it. We're going to move on to the next piece. Going over to Indianapolis, we got Mr. Jonathan Taylor suffered a high ankle sprain in Saturday's loss to the Vikings. He's still meeting with doctors, but it's considered highly unlikely that he's going to play again this season, which, unfortunate. One, for Jonathan Taylor owners. Two, for Jonathan Taylor. He's seen a lot of struggles this season with injuries and just this team as a whole, really, being dysfunctional. So, hoping for a speedy recovery for Jonathan Taylor. I kind of hope for his sake they do just kind of shut him down for the rest of the season because the Colts aren't playing for anything but pride at this point. And if
Yeah.
last week is an indicator, they don't really have much pride either. So,
Yeah, they gave up the biggest comeback in NFL history. Shout out Matt Ryan being involved in two of top 5 or top 6 biggest comebacks ever.
he might be in three, actually, because he had another pretty big blown game like that same season as well.
Really?
He's like one of the I think least clutch quarterbacks of all time. It might be like looking back, it might be amazing that he had a starting job for this long.
Like considering that his nickname was Matty Ice, he's got zero ice.
Yeah, he's got no ice in his veins whatsoever. It's lukewarm tap water at best.
It's wild. But yeah, so getting back to Jonathan Taylor, I think he did re-aggravate the same ankle sprain that he's been dealing with for the past few weeks. So that's definitely concerning. Like you said, I hope that they do shut him down for the rest of the season. If there's any fantasy teams that drafted him and did make it to the fantasy championship, which I feel like there probably aren't a ton, you're probably out after his performance this week. So hopefully this won't be affecting too many people with his absence going forward. But if you're still in it with him, that sucks.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor unfortunately going down as one of the worst first overall picks in fantasy. Unfortunately, just because
Yeah,
of this season, but hopefully he'll bounce back and shoot. Probably gonna get him for a discount next year, so something to look
for sure.
forward to, something to plan for. Moving forward over to Tennessee. After injuring his ankle, Ryan Tannehill said he took a cart to the locker room to save time, not because he couldn't walk, which makes sense. We've seen that in other instances as well. It's just quicker. And he did return and finish the game for the Titans. We haven't gotten official word on the severity of the ankle injury, but initial speculations that he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. So he could possibly miss some time. Tennessee, another team that sneakily is in the hunt for the playoffs still, right? So things
Yeah,
aren't really over for them yet.
yeah, they're still competing. That division is kind of a shit show. The Jaguars are getting hot, so we'll see what happens there. I think Ryan Tannehill coming back and playing is going to be quite necessary. I don't know if this is a re-aggravation because I know that he suffered a high ankle sprain not that long ago. It was a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know if it's the same ankle or not. But yeah, I mean, it's encouraging that he was able to get back and play for the rest of this game. It's definitely going to be something that we should monitor throughout the week because just because he came back doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be good to go for this upcoming week. The Titans are definitely going to need him, though. Malik Willis hasn't played well. Hopefully, Traylon Burks comes back this week. They'll have some of their playmakers. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, Malik Willis has not been it so far this season, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Moving forward with the Packers, we got A.J. Dillon left last night's game to be evaluated for a concussion. At this point, we're still not really sure whether or not he is in the concussion protocol or if he has a concussion yet. But he was unable to return to the game. Did have a pretty good game though. Was able to get 36 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns before he left. So things were looking up definitely for A.J. Dillon. Hoping that he'll have a speedy recovery this week, but also if not, that means Aaron Jones is in for a big week next week. If not, so something to keep an eye on for sure throughout the week, especially in these fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, and we'll let the cat out of the bag. We mentioned some of our fantasy performances. I'm down Jalen Hurts, potentially AJ Dillon down. You have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. We're playing
Mm-hmm.
each other in the semifinals in probably at least the league that I care about the most. I don't know about you.
Oh, for sure, same thing here.
Yeah. So we're having the fantasy football busters semifinals, and I'm at least happy that one of us is going to be represented in the championship. So we'll see how that goes. We'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, as far as AJ Dillon, it does sound like he probably did suffer a concussion just based on the fact that he didn't return.
Mm-hmm.
We'll keep an eye on it and let you guys know as we get more information. But I wouldn't expect him to play in this upcoming game.
Absolutely. And then moving on to another running back, we got Mr. Austin Eckler, who had tests done on his shoulder, but everything came back negative according to head coach Brandon Staley. So, bit of a bullet dodged on that one. Austin Eckler owners, you can take a deep breath because he's okay at least. But keep an eye on his status throughout the week just to make sure that they are ramping him up the way he's supposed to be. But as of right now, it seems as if any type of scares have been missed.
Yeah,
Fortunately.
I don't have too much to add. We were a little bit worried when he left the game, but he did come back. Seems to be fine. It was a little interesting that his passing game usage wasn't as high as it has been basically all season. I think he only got 2 catches, but he was able to get it done on the ground, so he was just fine for fantasy.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And then another big game who avoided injury as well, Mr. Justin Jefferson, who took a big hit from Stephon Gilmore on Saturday, emerged clean from the game, according to head coach Kevin O'Connell. So, looking like Justin Jefferson should be okay going forward as well. And yeah, it's good news for Justin Jefferson owners. Again, that's somebody else I got to play against this week because Eric has him. God, it's
Yeah,
gonna be a good
hopefully
matchup.
hopefully he has a big week, but again, I don't have too much to add. He's back healthy. We're all happy about it.
Yep. And then another stud, recently developing stud that we've had in fantasy, Mr. Justin Fields, hobbled off the field and into the locker room late in the game versus the Eagles. Said that he went in to receive an IV for cramps, and he was able to return to the game after that. This is just more of what I kind of mentioned a couple weeks ago about Justin Fields saying that his workload has kind of been a lot. He's still getting used to it because this is really the most he's done in the NFL yet so far. So
Yeah.
it is taking its toll, and hopefully next year he'll know the workload he's going to be coming into, and he'll be able to work himself up better for it. But this is just essentially growing pains is all I'm looking at this as.
I just can't wait to see him with more of a supporting cast around him. The Bears are gearing up for that. They have the most cap space in the NFL for next year by far, like maybe double the next closest team. They got a bunch of good draft picks. Because he's doing everything by himself right now, man.
Mm-hmm.
It like Equinemius St. Brown is currently their number one receiver, and he got hurt in the first quarter of this game. He's throwing to nobody, like Dante Pettis, and that's it. Like Velus Jones, I guess. I don't know
Yeah,
who he's
Velus
even throwing
Jones,
to.
the 26-year-old rookie. Yeah,
Bro,
yeah, it's not
it's
looking
bad.
great.
Yeah,
It's not looking great at all. But I think, like you said, I think they've realized now that, yeah, okay, Justin Fields is the guy. So
oh
they
yeah,
should start building a lot more around him, hopefully. But we thought
for
that
sure.
last year, going into this year. So we'll see how the Bears handle it. Moving over to a different shit show, we got Nathaniel Hackett says that Russell Wilson will be their starting quarterback this week after sustaining a concussion 2 weeks ago. Nathaniel Hackett, also somebody who's trending on the side of losing their job, I've seen from a couple reports. So
Yeah, wouldn't be shocked.
yeah, it's just okay.
What's the difference between Russell Wilson and Brett Rippon at this point? I mean, I guess Russell Wilson's last game he was good, but I'm not counting on that week in and week out.
The only difference is he gets another shot to break the bathroom record.
Facts.
That's it. He
Yes,
gets
dude,
two
hold
more
him out
shots.
so he can't beat the bathroom.
They're sandbagging, bro. Someone's got the odds over in Vegas.
Yep.
Okay, and then we're going to move over to another quarterback who is in the concussion protocol. We got Mr. Colt McCoy, the Arizona Cardinals. The team said they're going to err on the side of caution. We're going to wait and see if he clears in time to play this week. But if he doesn't, Trace McSorley will be in line to start if Colt McCoy can't go. So, going to keep an eye on Colt McCoy throughout the week. Again, I hope you're not relying on Colt McCoy in the playoffs right now. But if you are, keep an eye on his status throughout this week. And also do better next year. Really.
I don't think that there's, like you said, hopefully nobody, but there's very few people relying on Colt McCoy as a fantasy asset. But I think a lot of people are probably relying on DeAndre Hopkins, potentially Marquise
Mm-hmm.
Brown. Um,
Who is
DeAndre
definitely going to be
Hopkins,
hurt by Trace McSorley playing as opposed to Colt
yes,
McCoy.
exactly. Yeah, that's where I was getting to. Like Colt McCoy hasn't been that great in his own right, but he's still been able to sustain good performances for DeAndre Hopkins. Marquise Brown, not so much. He's been highly involved, but hasn't been able to produce much. But yeah, everybody takes a huge hit if Trace McSorley is the starter, other than maybe James Conner, because his volume is just leading the way for him.
Yeah, as I say, he's going to have his role regardless. He's going to be the workhorse,
Yeah.
bell cow. Moving over to New York, we got Corey Davis returned to practice after clearing concussion protocol, and Robert Salah is optimistic about him playing on this coming Thursday. So, should be another weapon back for the Jets. Just more excitement. Actually, it's weird. Zach Wilson actually had a kind of decent week this week.
He did. Yeah,
You
he
know?
stepped up when they needed him. They still ended up losing the game. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't put it all on Zach Wilson. Yeah, he did fine. Most of the Jets' receiving options still had pretty good games. But with Corey Davis coming back, I do wonder how that affects Elijah Moore's kind of status in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he continues to be that number two guy or if Corey Davis takes over. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see. And then sticking with the Jets, we got Denzel Mims is probably out for this week. Zonovan Knight is questionable with an ankle injury, and Mike White will continue to be evaluated. So just more statuses we're keeping an eye on. Denzel Mims, though, definitely done for the week. But keep an eye on Zonovan Knight and keep an eye on Mike White as well as he's evaluated throughout the week because if he's cleared to go, we actually don't really know who this team is going to go with as opposed, him or Zach Wilson. Because I think if Mike White's able to go, they might choose Mike White still to start.
Yeah, that's probably what I lean towards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, considering how much they invested in Wilson and the decent performance that he had this week, I wouldn't be completely shocked if they chose to stick with him.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then we're moving over, staying in the AFC East, but we're going to move over to the Dolphins. We got Coach Mike McDaniel said Jeff Wilson was close to playing in Week 15, so he thinks it's likely that he will be able to go this week. So keep an eye on Jeff Wilson. Of course, if he plays, it's going to downgrade Raheem Mostert as opposed to last week because, he got majority of the touches. These two
Yeah.
are mostly split in 50-50, so if he comes back, expect that to split again, I'd assume. But what do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think it is going to be 50-50 once Wilson comes back with how well that Mostert has played in his absence?
It might be close to like a 60-40, maybe even a 70-30, but it's not going to be 90-10 for sure.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
100%. I wouldn't be nearly as confident in Mostert as I was coming into this week,
Hmm.
but I think he'll probably be over that 50% share just by a little.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And then sticking with running backs who are coming back soon, we got Mr. Khalil Herbert's designated to return from IR this week and could play as soon as this week. So that's a big weapon back for the Bears in terms of special teams and in their offense. So good to see Khalil Herbert back on the field. Also, just exciting to see him back on the field again with this team operating the way they have been lately. So be exciting to see how he plays going forward.
Yeah, another one that I want to kind of talk about. What do you think that's going to mean for David Montgomery's workload, who's been getting everything back there and had a really good week this week with 2 touchdowns?
See, that's a great question because I feel like this happens with the Bears every year. Somehow David Montgomery ends up getting the lion's share of everything
Yeah.
at the end of the season. And I'm going to stick with history here, and I'm going to say that Khalil Herbert's going to get some touches, but the split's probably going to be somewhere from probably like 80-20, 70-30, like in favor of David Montgomery. I think they're going to keep riding the hot hand because he has been doing well, and he always
Yeah.
kind of finishes out the season strong. So,
Yeah, especially for this first week, if Khalil Herbert does come back, I expect them to ease him in. He was coming off of a fairly serious hip injury.
hmm
So, yeah, I would expect the workload to heavily favor David Montgomery, at least for week 16. And week 17, we can reevaluate. But, yeah, probably going to continue to be majority of the touches going for Monty.
yeah. So just something I wouldn't. I've got Khalil Herbert on one of my teams. He's probably not going to touch the field in terms of being on my fantasy team out there. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're going to take this. We're going to move over to another running back. Mr. Caleb Huntley of the Atlanta Falcons is out for the remainder of the season with an Achilles injury. So, again, hate to see it, especially with a young player like Caleb Huntley. You hate to see him go down with an injury like this, especially as damaging as we've seen Achilles injuries be to running backs' careers. So, prayers up to Caleb Huntley and his recovery, and hopefully he can be one of those freaks that can just bounce back from this and is okay. But something to keep an eye on for sure. But I'm not super confident, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he'd be one of zero
Yeah.
because we
Well,
haven't seen anybody do it.
well,
Are you going
Deonta
to say
Foreman
Deonta
after
Foreman?
years.
It took him it took him 4 years to come back to being a productive running back, which all props to him. Like that's awesome. We're glad that he didn't get completely washed out of the NFL, but that's so rare for a guy to be injured for that long. He was unable to play for almost 2 years and then wasn't really like on a roster or producing for another 2. Like the fact that he was able to get back and be relevant is really impressive to him, but unlikely for a guy like Caleb Huntley, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is just the unfortunate truth. But we'll hope for the best. We'll see how it shakes out. But again, terrible to see. And
Yeah.
then moving over to what's up? What's up? What's up?
Before you move on, I just want to touch on this backfield. It does open things up a little bit because Caleb Huntley was fairly involved. Tyler Algier got the lion's share of the workload in this game. Had a really good game this past week. I would expect this to give him a little bit of a bump up, along with Cordell Patterson. It's still going to be a committee between those two guys, but it's condensed from 3 to 2.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess something to look forward to if you're invested in the Atlanta backfield, especially going in the playoffs. The field's going to open up a little bit more for you. And then moving over to Jacksonville, we got the Jaguars starting left tackle Cam Robinson is done for the year with a meniscus injury. Again, this is a pretty big blow to the Jaguars offensive line. Probably a little bit of a blow to the offense as a whole, but they have been hot lately as well, so may not be too big of a blow. But again, losing the left tackle at this stage of the season is not something that you want to do for sure as a football team. So prayers up for Cam Robinson and his recovery as well, but Trevor Lawrence is missing a major piece of this offensive line right now.
Yeah, we'll see if this slows their surge at all. They've been really hot these past 2 weeks. We'll see what it does for the running game as well. Travis Etienne had been struggling for a while, but this past week he was actually able to get some decent running room against the Cowboys. Surprisingly, he went for over 100 yards. He didn't produce that much for fantasy though, because he still fumbled. He's not super careful with the football, that guy. But yeah, we'll see what this means for the team. I'm interested to see going forward.
Yeah. And then our last piece of news to wrap up the day, we're going back over to Green Bay with the Packers, and they have released Sammy Watkins. I believe they released him on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
did they release him early Monday?
No, I think you're right. I think it was Sunday.
Yeah, it was like the day before the game. I don't know what this move was for.
I think they called up another running back from the practice squad or something like that. I'm not entirely sure why, but I mean, none of this matters. The other running back didn't matter. Sammy Watkins didn't matter. I hope nobody cares about this information. We just figured we should put it on
Yeah,
here.
I hope nobody was hurt by a late Sammy Watkins getting released. I hope you didn't lose your game off of that.
Yeah, if you did, you deserved it.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's just another wily vet out there for a team to scoop up if they want, or he'll just be sitting at home. Who knows? But yeah, again, that's going to wrap up our news and injuries on the week. Thank you guys for watching this far. And if you made it this far into the video, as I always say, means you fuck with the vid. So make sure you subscribe, like, hit that notification bell. That way you can know every time we drop. And if you need any fantasy football advice, even this late in the season, there is no paywall. So drop a comment down below, and we will get back to you with what our best answer is, what our best conclusion is. We give some pretty good advice from time to time, so make sure you guys drop those down below. We ask each other for advice too, so it's not even like we're only telling it to you guys. Also, make sure you guys check down in the description. You'll be able to find links to our other social medias. You'll be able to find our Twitters. Eric posts a lot of really good fantasy football news, keep you updated before the games start, game conditions, stuff like that. Also, follow the people Eric follows if you want to get even more in depth with this, because it can go pretty deep. And give me a follow if you like just people talking shit, because I talk a lot of shit on the TO. Also, follow us on TikTok. That's where a lot of our short form content is and our spin the wheel challenges. So, Eric, you got anything else for the people before we go?
Nah, man, I think you covered it all. You went through the whole spiel. But if you did make it this far, as always, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for rocking with us, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.